how you doing? I'm Claudio Sanchez, and I'm a part of the Prize Fighter Inferno. So yeah, we're just going to kind of walk through some of the setup. Some of you may know me from Coheed and Cambria. This is a much different situation than that. So it's pretty stripped down. I guess we'll start like here and work our way over to the synth. So I'll kick that light over because that's just how I do. So anyway, with Coheed, I typically use Taylor acoustics, but for this, because I wanted it to be unique to this project, I have twin Gibson J45s. So these are what I've been using on this run. This one's pretty special because Kevin Allen, guitar tech and friend, got this custom made for me with my son's name on it. So I have two of these, and that's what I've been rocking for these shows. Well, so the tunings are different. This is just an E standard, whereas the other is E flat. So the first record that I put out, however many years ago, I recorded that while we were doing the Good Apollo record, the Coheed Good Apollo record, and at that time we were doing a lot of stuff in E flat, and so I just, because that's what I was doing at that time, I decided to, for that record, for that collection of songs, I would do the same. So that's what this is here for. If we want, we can step over to the microphone. This microphone's kind of special to me. I don't typically use this mic on tour, but this is my studio microphone. It's a SM7B. I've used it on the Prize Fighter record, the City Introvert, as well as the Coheed record, Vaxis 2, A Window of the Waking Mind. So this is right out of my studio. I love it so much that I thought for this project, I'd try to do something, again, a little unique and bring it out. I really like the way it captures my voice, more so than something like this, which I typically use with Coheed, but maybe it makes more sense for it. It's more of like a condenser mic in this sort of performance form factor. But yeah, that's my setup, and then we move our way over here. So this is the world, Dave's world. So Dave's running a Nord Wave 2, and he's performing some of the tracks from the record just to help kind of glue us to the stems that we're running over here in Ableton Live. And then we move over to my modular synth, which I brought from home. We were initially thinking of bringing something smaller, but I'm just such a fan of the way these things look that I thought, why not? Let's bring the whole thing. So I call it Benson and Barbara, actually, after my two dogs that have passed. But the main piece of the Eurorack modular that we're using is this module right here called the Make Noise Morphogene. And the Morphogene is like a sampler, a really wacky sampler that allows you to like control all the aspects of your sample, splice them up in a way that like is just unique outside of like what a traditional sampler would do. And he's got that running into the Magneto, which is like a delay looper. So once this kind of passes and goes into here, it kind of loops and mangles it even more. A lot of this stuff is kind of, for show. Initially, our idea was to run clock from the tracks and maybe trigger some of these things, but we didn't get that far. So the main functionality of this is really the Morphogene. And what Dave is doing here with Theremin is via control voltage, he's controlling the slide of whatever sample he's got loaded onto the SD card. So it just creates like this really like wacky sort of vibe. That's really cool. For sure, so a lot of this stuff gets used in the studio. So for Virtual Pioneers, for one, like I took a bunch of these modules, I put them in a smaller Eurorack case and used them to kind of construct that song. So the Morphogene is one. There's these small drum modules right here that I utilized, the Plats for like the drums that are in that song. This right here just to cycle through, instead of using, say, as Dave's using the the theremin to run through stuff, I'll take the outs of these CVs and I'll send them into these inputs here to sort of mangle like a whatever the sample is in there, but it's still like sequence. So every time it kind of passes, it's somewhat close to it passes in like a sequence. It feels a little like more controlled, and so I used a lot of that on Virtual Pioneers. But yeah, all of this stuff gets used. This is a great module that allows you to like come out of it into Ableton and sort of track all of your modules individually, giving them some isolation, which typically, like before I had this module, I ran everything stereo out, so that once it was into the DAW or onto tape or whatever have you, it was like totally committed. Like there was no, stemming it out and working on things, in isolation. So this has allowed me to do that. But yeah, a lot of it is like, cool stuff like this to just, create some random, this is the Woggle Bug from Make Noise. It just kind of creates like some random wild control voltages that, allow you to create things that, you might not get to recreate, so it's always kind of important to have the computer running, which I don't always. So I miss a lot of cool stuff. I got into Eurorack modular synthesis when Coheed worked on the Year of the Black Rainbow record with Atticus Ross and Joe Barresi, Atticus Ross of Nine Inch Nails, and so I just kind of fell in love with the idea. I'd always been interested in synthesis. I have, at that time I had owned like a few synthesizers, one of my favorites being a Moog Voyager, and then just working with him and like got me sort of interested in this. And none of these modules were my first, but I did get Analog Solutions Vostok, which is a actually no, it is a modular synth, but it's in like its own sort of contained box. So that was my first introduction into this world. And I still have that synthesizer. It kind of, when this is at home, it sits atop of it. But yeah, that was the beginning. And then of course, like these are pretty good introductions as well. The Moog Mother 32, because it's semi-modular. You kind of can play it without any of the patches, but you have these to sort of modulate the sound. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Hi, I'm Claudio Sanchez, and thank you very much again for checking out the gear we have out with us on the Prize Fighter Inferno tour. If you're interested in following the band, you can find us at the PFI Official on Instagram, evilinc.records.com. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Like, just look up the Prize Fighter Inferno and you should, it'll lead you to us.